Wonderful Wednesday afternoon, everyone. It's time for another video. And today I want to talk about what is called KNIME Pro. KNIME Pro is a new offering from KNIME that is designed for active solo workflow builders that want to automate and schedule workflows, deploy data apps for use by others, and much more. And that pretty much sums it up as well. If you think about the commercial offerings from KNIME, on the top end for, I guess, corporations, there is the Business Hub, which is quite pricey, so not really suitable for individuals. Then there's the entry-level offering that I've covered already, the Team Plan, where you can collaborate with different people and have your own space, and where you can also leverage Business Hub features, but in a KNIME-hosted cloud infrastructure. And now the third option that you have, if you're an individual, you can in the future sign up to KNIME Pro and also use data app deployments, workflow scheduling, and also since a few weeks deploy workflows as REST APIs on KNIME Pro for a monthly fee and then execution on a pay-as-you-go basis. I think the price point is about 21 euros. And that already includes per month 120 execution credits. So I think that covers 2 hours of execution time. So what I want to cover in today's video is first give you a quick rundown what KNIME Pro looks like in the Analytics platform once you connect and what it looks like in the browser. And after that, I've prepared 2 examples. One is a video that I've recorded a while ago that hasn't been published yet. There I walk you through how to deploy a multi-page data app on KNIME Pro and how to share it with other users. And after that, I will also share with you how you can deploy a workflow as a REST service and how to use that endpoint and to authenticate against that. That said, let's now get started with looking at what KNIME Pro looks like in the Analytics platform. So as you can see, I have connected already with my normal account to the Community Hub. I have my main profile. So that's the free version, I guess, on the Community Hub where I can upload to private and public spaces my workflows. Then I have the Innovation Flows team, which I have access to because I'm part of the KNIME Educators Alliance. And then there's my profile name with a suffix of Pro. So that is KNIME Pro. So right now, Pro is in early access. I'm one of about 100 lucky users who get to test it and provide feedback, which I'm really grateful for. And as you can see, also here I can create my own spaces. I have one for agentic AI, data app examples, my Kicker Manager from last time around, and the REST API space, which for now remains empty. So if I now go to the browser and we take a look at the Business Hub, so I'm on my main profile here, I can then select either the team that I'm on or KNIME Pro. And if I click on KNIME Pro, you also see the spaces that we saw in the Analytics platform. And on top of that, we see some more options. So obviously this is the entry page with the spaces. Then I can look at my deployment. So this was a test service that I deployed. Let's quickly delete that. Then there's a run history. So here you can see which workflows were run by whom and for how long they ran for. And then what I really like, there's also a secrets tab, or where you can safely store your credentials like API keys or passwords and so on and so forth that you need in your workflows that are deployed on your Pro plan. So all in all, a very comprehensive offering. In the top, you can also see the execution credits. So I've used just 71 of them for now. As part of the early access, I have 2,000 credits left, which I don't think I'll ever be able to spend. But we will certainly burn through some in the course of today. So with this brief introduction, let's now look into how to deploy a multi-page data app. I recorded that video when a fellow early access user had some trouble with that multi-page feature. So that's been a few days ago, and I hope that you enjoy that and get something out of that. Quick video today. There's a fellow KNIMER who was as lucky as I was and has access to the early version of KNIME Pro, and the person has some issues with deploying a multi-page data app. So let's see whether I can help him out. As you can see, I've already started creating a local workflow on my desktop. And next, because I don't really want to build a lot of data apps right now, I will go to the KNIME Community Hub and find some examples. I go to the collections page, and I've used this before. There are some good examples in KNIME for Finance. Scrolling very much to the bottom, here are KPI workflows, so customer churn, employee turnover, and revenue growth. So we will drag and drop them individually into my analytics platform. Next one. And now the last one. And after having done that, I will just grab whatever is on here and move it here. Let's check that it still executes. Of course it doesn't. I bet it's reading from the workflow data area. Yep, and obviously that did not get copied across. So let's quickly fix that. To fix that, I will just save all these three workflows locally in a random folder. Once I've done that, I can just browse to my workspace and copy the Excel files into my new workflow. Just opened folders in my Explorer. So this is my main app. We need to place all these Excel files in here. So this is customer churn. So copy, paste. Next is employee turnover, copy and paste. And the last one is revenue growth, so also copy and paste. Yep, that's fine. Okay, back to the Analytics platform. And now the reader should read and the data app should work. There we go. So now we just copy the other ones across as well. Okay, let's just execute them all. Yep, that works. Okay, so now all that's left to do to make this a multi-page app where we first would see the customer churn, then the employee turnover, and then the revenue growth is connecting them in sequence via flow variables. Then let's save that, show it in my Explorer, and next I will upload this to Community Hub and here to KNIME Pro, just put it into the agentic AI space, doesn't really matter. So now the workflow that I've just created with the three visualizations gets moved there. And I can now go here and open it in Hub. So the first thing that I then want to do is create a version, because only once you have versioned something you can deploy it. And after that we can deploy it as a data app, for example. So now that it's available as a data app, I should be able to go to my profile, look at the data apps portal, and then see it here. So let's run it and see what happens. It would load up now just for a moment, and I would then expect to see that we see the first visualization. There we go, so that's the customer churn. We also have the ability to change the years and then it will reload. Now it's 2023. And if we click the next button, it will load up now the employee turnover, I believe. Yep. And if we go next, then we get the growth rate KPI. Yeah, so that's how you can quickly deploy your own data app on the web portal. And let me also quickly show you how you can then share that. So from the spaces, again, let's go to my Pro trial, Agentic AI, KNIME Pro. And then at the bottom, you can see this data app deployment. And here you can also see the runs that I've started. And you could actually go and debug it if something went wrong. Yeah, it renders in the browser, really cool. But you can also go ahead and manage access. So let's say I have another account, low code AIFT for the win. And this account can run only. So if I now apply this, and let's open an incognito window. Let's quickly log in. And if I now go to my profile and to the data apps portal, I can see this and I can also run it. First app seems to take a little bit longer. Yeah, so you can click ourselves through now from one dashboard to the other. So that all works. Let's go back and close this down. Can then also go back to my main account. And now let's maybe last take a look at the billing pieces. So right now it shows 18 execution credits. So that's not a lot. And if I go on run history, you can see that this Pro app was run 3 times. I did a quick test at the beginning, then recorded this one, and this one is when I logged in with the other accounts that I shared it with. And so all these credits go against my plan, and part of the beta are 2000 execution credits. So that is what was used right now. Let's see if that might have updated. No. So yeah, 1 credit I think is 1 minute, and 1 minute execution time is 5 cents euro, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, there you go. That's how it works. Now that you know how you can deploy a multi-page data app and share it with others, let's look into the second topic that I've prepared, and that is deploying a workflow as a REST service on the KNIME Pro plan. So I start with an empty workflow. It's my basic GET service, so we will prepare something that can accept GET requests. And I've prepared some basic dummy data. So the moment that my node appears, you also see the minimap. I'm right now on version 5.6. And if you also want the minimap back in modern UI, you can enable that under Preferences, Modern UI, and then the workflow editor switch over to WebGL, which is the new and still experimental renderer, which includes the minimap. Really cool feature. Let's scroll across a bit. So in this table creator, there's just some dummy data about some random countries, Germany, Switzerland, Italy, with some scores. And I want to return that from a REST service. So next, I use the row ID node. And what I do is I take my country column and turn that into a row ID. The reason why I do that, REST APIs require returning JSON most of the time, and the table to JSON node allows me to set my row key as a JSON key. So when I now execute that, I get a nice JSON object with keys per country, and in there is another object with a key score and the value of that score from my table initially. Now the last node that we need is a container output node. And in here I can actually define what the parameter name should look like. So that would mean there would be a JSON object that has a key JSON output. And behind this key is this object that we see down here. So you can fill that in by the example data. So let's call that country scores. Okay, that is pretty much our example workflow ready. Let's save that. And now what I'll do is I will move that first to the community hub on my Pro plan. So I will show as saved locally on my Explorer. And I will then right click this, upload community hub, my Pro plan, and then the REST API one. And I make sure that I reset this before uploading. So now I can reveal this in Space Explorer. So now I'm already here in KNIME Pro, not on my local space anymore. And from here I can right click and open in Hub. So the first thing that you notice is you cannot just deploy it, because in order to deploy anything on Community Hub or Business Hub, you need to version it first. So we will click the version button, create a new version. I will just call this version 1 and create it. And now you can notice that the deploy button is ready. Click deploy and select service. Here you can now select the name for your service and also the execution context. So the execution context you would select based on how much computation power your workflow requires. And depending on which size you take, the execution gets more expensive per minute. So 1 credit are 5 euro cents. So that would be the cheapest one with extra small, and it goes up to large where it would be 8 credits per minute of execution, but we will keep it for small for now. Then I will just keep the default settings and create. And when I now scroll down, you can see under deployment that there's my service. And when I click the 3 buttons, I can open the API docs, which gives you the so-called Swagger interface. So this is a documentation of all the different endpoints. And one word of caution, in general, when you work with JSON, and most of the time that will be the case, you want to use the /execution endpoints, not the 2 up here. It can be a bit confusing because this sounds like exactly what you want, something that creates in one step a job on the hub and executes that job. This one down here does the same. So raw execution is a different thing. You can only have 1 input and so on and so forth. Most of the time, I don't really think that will be of use. That's why I recommend to look at the bottom ones. In our case, we need the GET request. So if I expand this, I can test my API by trying it out and then executing this. If all goes well, I should get a status 200, yep. And then I can inspect the response body. And if I scroll down here, you can now see our key output values with an object with the key country scores. So that is our output node from the end, this one. And in there is our object with the country names and the scores. And if we were using this from any other application, either from KNIME or from Python, then we could grab this data and process it further and use it in our application. So let's clear that for now. And let's now think about how we can actually access this endpoint. So whenever you have a REST API, you typically need to authenticate against it. So either you have an API key for that, or maybe basic authentication. The Pro plan supports basic authentication, and for that we need to create a application password. Let's go back to the KNIME hub, and here I will go to my main profile, so not the Pro one, but my normal one. And down here under settings is application passwords. And here we can create a new application password. call that REST test. And after you create it, and only after you've created it, you will be able to copy the ID and the password. And I will quickly do both of that. As you can see, if I now go to notifications and application passwords, now I see part of the ID, but the password is gone. So if I hadn't copied that information, then I would have to delete this and create a new one. So obviously you now have seen the secret and the password, or at least part of that. I will delete this before this video sees the light of day. So what do we do with this application ID and password? So in basic auth, you need a username and a password. Your username will be the ID and your password will be the password that I've just copied. In order to put these credentials to good use, I will open Postman. Postman is an application that you can use to test APIs. And the cool thing is that if I go back to my endpoint documentation, what I can do is I can click on this link up here, which opens the Open API documentation. If I just Control A, Control C to copy all of this, I can go to Postman, click Import, and just paste this up here and import this. So now I have my basic REST service up here, and under deployments, I then have my two endpoints that we've seen for raw execution, to create jobs, and to execute. And here we have the GET request. So before we can use this, let's just open this up. You can see we need to set up our authorization. So let's do that first. The auth type will be basic auth. So then we can use username and password. Let me just copy in the new credentials. Here we go. And if I now hit send, this will fail because up here you can see that there is a placeholder value, the base URL. So if I click on my parent, the basic GET service, there's a tab called variables. And in here you see that the base URL is not defined. So let's go back and let's copy our base URL, which is api.hub.knime.com. Go back to Postman, set this here, delete the last backslash, the same here, click save. If I now go back to my GET request and send, then hopefully we should get through and should be able to inspect the payload. So we got 200, which means that we managed to access the endpoint all right. And if I scroll through here, we again have our output values, then the key country scores, and then our country data. Awesome. So now let's do one more thing and let's use this in Python. The script will be in Go, in data area, so in the data folder, so that you can play around with it. What do we need to do here? We need to define our base URL, which is api.hub.knime.com, and then we need to get our endpoint for the deployment. So let's first get that. A couple of ways how we can get that. I will probably copy it from here. Go back to my Python script and just replace this. And then we need to grab our credentials again. That's username and password. Then what this script does is it puts our URL together and creates a basic auth object and sends that to the API via GET request. So if I now just save this and execute it, we should hopefully get a response from the API. We indeed do. Let's see if we can do a little bit better. So let's see if we can unpack this. That Yeah, so here we now just get our object, and if I now set country scores, save and execute again, now we just get this piece of data, and could obviously use that in a different script. Okay, so much for the REST API functionality. That should wrap up our video, but before anyone doubts me, I will not forget to delete these credentials, so that even if I keep them hard-coded in the Python script and so on and so forth, it will not be useful for anyone, because I will also delete my deployment. Hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time.